Hello, everyone. So, this dungeon idea wasn't my best, and it kind of turned out to be a bit of a failure, but it was okay in the end. Let me show you what I did. So, for today's session, I wanted to make a little mini dungeon. So, we have the plot for today was picked by the players. They wanted to go and find the killers for one of our other players' characters, Tuck. Basically what had happened was in between sessions, our player had decided to retire their character, but wanted it to be somewhat more meaningful. And so they decided to offer up the opportunity to have their character be killed off screen by the underworld boss, Barbarigo Morgan. And in the process of finding out that this character had been killed, the other players decided, oh, we need to take revenge. And so made it a mission to go and raid the underworld, not the actual underworld, just like the little crime syndicate area, which is a little mini dungeon in the sewers. And that's what we're doing today, is they're going to have that revenge plot. So I wanted to make a little mini dungeon so that they could actually walk through it and attempt to do the raid. The problem is twofold. So what had happened was they have been down here in these sewers multiple times, but it's all been theater of the mind. So I've described on multiple occasions what it sort of looks like and not had any actual visual backup. So I'm doing a lot of this dungeon from memory, from like, what did I tell these guys? What do I remember them knowing? So hopefully they, have as bad of a memory as I do, because some of these things, while it does track, like there's, specifically Barbarigo Morgan's office having a large desk in the middle, having several bookshelves that lead to different secret passages, and one that leads to a secret bathroom. Those things were somewhat iconic at the last time that they were here. A lot of it was just, well, now you're walking through, there's traps, there's other goons who've got pistols and things that you want to be avoiding, and otherwise you get to the place you need to go. That's basically how I've been describing it so far. So today it'll be a little bit more description, it'll be a bit more oomph, and hopefully a nice little visual to show exactly what they're doing. Now, I'm using Dungeon Draft to make this dungeon, and then I have another website to go to, Rasterbator, which takes large poster-sized images and then cuts them up into 8.5 by 11 blocks, so that you can essentially just print them all out onto single sheets of paper and then put them together, and then you have your full poster. So the idea behind it was that I would make the dungeon, essentially a giant poster-sized dungeon, have it blocked out as single pages, have all the pages printed, and then sort of cut them into like almost like jigsaw puzzle-esque shapes, so that I could have the separate rooms and tape them together to make them bit-by-bit dungeons that you can kind of go in and walk through. And that kind of leads to the second problem, where it mostly worked, but having to cut them and then tape them back together left them kind of flimsy, and of course not perfectly even, and it's a little messy looking. Obviously, me just cutting with scissors instead of something like a straight edge or something along those lines doesn't help, but for a very cheap solution, it gets the job done. But I think next time what I might do is I might do each individual room as its own dungeon. So I can go into Dungeon Draft and I'll make each room as a dungeon and just do 8.5 by 11 room sizes. So it'll only be at max, 7 or 8 tiles one way and 10 or 11 tiles the other, so that it fits on an 8.5 by 11 sheet, so that I no longer have to worry about having to use the other website to get them blocked out. The only issue with that would be maybe hallways, but I'm sure I could play around with it and figure it out. That way I can just reveal each room as they come up to it, which I think is a good way to handle it. Alternatively, and something else that I might do anyways, even not as just an alternative, is I might just start making modular rooms. So I can do the same essential concept, but rather than having pre-made rooms that I have to have the dimensions of and know what everything is, I can make these just sort of modular rooms and hallways that are always the same, that I can just piece together bit by bit as we do dungeons and stuff like that. And especially if it's just like, oh, we have a mega dungeon and we just need to create some extra rooms really quick, So modular rooms and hallways can just fit together really easy like that. So that might be another thing that I do, just to have them as like a backup. But yeah, so that was the story. And of course, the session's happening today. So if you're interested in finding out what happened at the session, stick around for a little bit of a recap. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notified of it. And yeah, be here for the next one. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.